I am finding it absolutely hilarious that the same people on the internet who complain about snowflakes and people being too fragile are also the same people throwing a tantrum about the Barbie movie. This is just a delightful film, and I'm so glad I saw it opening weekend. So many people were wearing pink, all the cinema staff had pink on. This film is having a pop culture moment, and I am very much here for it. This movie is about stereotypical Barbie, who, after suffering from an existential crisis, which is not something I think anyone expected when this film was first announced, embarks on an adventure with Ken to the real world to fix herself and discover the truth. How the hell they convinced Mattel, convinced Warner Brothers to do some of the things in this movie is just beyond me. I didn't realize until the screening that this movie is a 12 and it's on the edgier side of it. They make jokes about how they don't have genitals. This movie is really going for it. And it's crazy how it's able to fire on all cylinders with its messaging, but also just deliver the fun. And goddamn is this movie fun. The whole design of Barbie Land is crazy. I would love to walk around that set. There's definitely a lot of CGI parts, but you can see the things they've built and it feels really tangible. There's also the sheer number of costumes. Different outfits is part of the whole Barbie thing, but they had so much fun with it here. Ken's full fur mink coat is just ridiculous, but it works. And just please, Hollywood, make more musicals. They give Ken his own song and it is so damn funny. Ryan Gosling is pouring his heart out, and the way the entire sequence for it is choreographed is just brilliant. It's really pulling from the classic Hollywood musicals in how it's staged, and it fits so well within the dreamland aesthetic, and it looks fantastic. I do wonder if the rise of TikTok will lead to more musical sequences in movies, because music breaks into popular culture in a way it didn't 5 years ago through TikTok. Peaches from Mario went viral on TikTok, you saw Matilda the Musical do huge numbers there, and now with I'm Just Ken. If you have a hit song in a movie, TikTok markets it for you, so it'll be interesting to see if that becomes a tactic for films going forward. In a way it kind of was for this film with the Barbie party soundtrack with a whole bunch of big artists doing songs for this movie, and there's a couple of instances in the movie where that music is used really well. Dua Lipa's song for it is brilliant and there's a wonderful dance for it, and that's because it feels like they were written before they actually shot the movie and then designed the sequences around the music, and it looks and sounds great. But there's other instances, specifically the Charlie XCX song that plays over one sequence, and it feels really tacked on. It's a good song and it works fine, but it doesn't feel like it was shot to that piece of music, and it stands out more because of how well the other pieces were used. Margot Robbie is fantastic in this film to the surprise of absolutely no one. She gets to play such a range in this film and helps to transform this doll into a real character. The same is true of Ryan Gosling as Ken. Before this movie came out, you saw a lot of people online saying he was too old, which is crazy because he's just brilliant and really shows how good he is at comedies here. I can't believe I almost forgot about Michael Cera as Alan. I love Michael Cera and Alan is brilliant. There's hundreds of Barbies in Barbie Land, hundreds of Kens, but only one Alan. Every time they cut away to him, he's really funny, and they give him a pretty fun sequence to do as well. Will Ferrell is also good casting. He's funny, he plays the Mattel CEO, but it did feel like the movie didn't know what to do with him after a certain point. He's set up as a bit of a big threat and then he's pushed to the side. It never felt like he was that fully developed. I felt similarly about the mother-daughter character who Barbie meets in this film. They become a really important part of the plot, but for me the film didn't spend enough time with them for me to fully buy into them or their relationship. You can see the arc they go through and the destination is good and makes sense, but I could have spent a little more time on the journey with them. So with Will Ferrell and their characters, there was part of this movie I wasn't totally buying into, but what the movie is able to do with the rest of it is so clever. You really feel the influence of the Lego movie in this film, and not just because Will Ferrell plays pretty much the same character in both, but Barbie really commits to them being dolls in Barbie Land. They walk on their tippy toes. There's some fantastic gags about how when they play with dolls, you don't walk them out the front door, you float them down. This film isn't just looking at the Barbie brand and making a movie about that character, it's about the doll, which is such a smart decision, because when you make it about the doll, you then have to engage with everyone's shared perception about the doll and what that means. And Barbie has been a sort of complicated thing. Pre-Barbie, people playing with baby dolls has this weird implication about trying to teach young girls to just be mothers, but when Barbie dolls came along, they're not babies, they don't promote motherhood, they show the idea that you can be anyone. But at the same time, they also set up a really unhealthy, unrealistic set of beauty standards. That's a really tricky thing to navigate, and it would have been so much easier for the film to avoid all of it. But no, the movie brings all of that baggage with it and somehow is able to reframe all of it. It's kind of genius what Greta Gerwig did here. I'm convinced at this point Barbie is going to be the Halloween costume this year in the same way Dahmer was last year or Squid Games the previous year. And I think what would be really cool about that is I don't think it will be just because because Barbie has been a popular movie, but it'll be because of how this film was able to redefine what Barbie is. Before this movie, if you ask anyone about Barbie, they think of one specific look and then the unrealistic body standards that come with it. But this film, with having all these different Barbies of Kens who all look and sound different, it means everyone can be Barbie. I was leaving my screening and people were saying bye Barbie to each other, which was it was kind of nice. But this movie doesn't just deal with the problematic aspects of its own brand. This movie is really going for the jugular with real world issues. It's very explicitly about how we live in a patriarchal society. Barbie, when leaving Barbie Land, suddenly becomes aware of all the real struggles women face. And look, I'm a guy, so I don't have that life experience to personally relate to it, but I thought it was done really well. I've never seen a film come out and be as direct in saying all the things this movie is saying. Just a quick scroll through Barbie stuff on TikTok and you can see the response it's getting and how much it's resonating to have such an openly feminist movie speak to experiences that really don't get talked about in big blockbuster films. The fact this is able to say everything it does, be as financially successful as it has been during this opening weekend, and be this mini pop culture moment is really cool. This is a movie that would not have gotten made like this 10 years ago, and it'll be really interesting to see how the discourse changes 10 years after this movie. Again, I've seen people criticize this movie as anti-men, which is just ridiculous. I thought this was a very understanding and sympathetic take on Ken. He's very problematic for a lot of the movie, and a lot of toxic masculinity going on for sure, but it never undermined his own feeling. He has a real identity problem and tries to solve it in a way that is not just harmful to all of the Barbies, but to himself as well. And his arc was really well done. I have found it very funny how you see a whole bunch of people online chanting "Go woke, go broke" for any movie or brand that is the tiniest bit progressive. And then Barbie comes along, which is so direct in how it's confronting a patriarchal society and is absolutely dominating the box office. Barbie is a really fun time, not just with the movie itself, but at least in my cinema, the whole experience was really fun. I'd give this a light 8.
I haven't actually listened to Connor's review yet, so if he said all bad things, don't listen to him, listen to me. I would give it 10 out of 10.